Captain Marcus Whitfield had been standing guard at the palace gates for 12 years. The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard as he adjusted his ceremonial uniform. His polished boots gleamed and his sword hung perfectly at his side. The royal family trusted him completely, and he had never failed in his duty. The palace was buzzing with activity. Servants hurried back and forth preparing for the annual charity gala that evening. Distinguished guests from across the kingdom would arrive soon. Marcus watched everything with sharp eyes, noting each face that passed through the gates. Security was his responsibility, and he took it seriously. Around 10 in the morning, Marcus noticed a small figure sitting alone on the stone steps near the fountain. It was a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Her clothes were simple but clean, and her dark hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She sat very still, staring at the ground with her shoulders hunched forward. At first, Marcus thought she might be waiting for someone. Perhaps her parents worked in the palace kitchens or gardens. Many staff members brought their children to work during school holidays. But as the minutes passed, he realized something was wrong. The child was crying silently, tears streaming down her small face. Marcus felt torn between his duty to guard the entrance and his concern for the distressed child. His training told him to stay at his post, but his heart pulled him toward the little girl. He had a daughter of his own, Sarah, who was about the same age. The thought of his own child sitting alone and crying somewhere made his chest tighten with worry. The girl remained motionless for nearly an hour. Palace staff walked past her without stopping, too busy with their preparations to notice one small, quiet child. Marcus kept glancing in her direction, hoping someone would come to help her or that she would simply get up and leave. But she stayed exactly where she was, occasionally wiping her eyes with the back of her small hand. Finally, Marcus could stand it no longer. He called to his fellow guard, Thomas, who was stationed at the side entrance. Thomas was younger and sometimes bent the rules, but he was reliable when it mattered. Marcus gestured toward the crying girl and then pointed to himself, indicating he was going to check on her. Thomas nodded and moved to cover both positions. Marcus walked slowly across the courtyard, his heavy boots clicking against the stones. The girl looked up as he approached, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She appeared frightened at first, seeing his uniform and official appearance. Marcus immediately softened his expression and crouched down to her level, making himself less intimidating. "Hello there," he said gently. "I'm Captain Marcus. I noticed you've been sitting here for quite a while. Are you all right?" The girl stared at him for a long moment, as if deciding whether she could trust him. Her lower lip trembled and fresh tears began to flow. She shook her head slowly, unable to speak through her sobs. Marcus felt his protective instincts kick in completely. This child was in real distress, not just having a tantrum or feeling sorry for herself. "Are you lost?" Marcus asked softly. "Are you looking for someone?" Again the girl shook her head. She reached into the pocket of her small jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Her hands were shaking as she held it out to him. The paper looked like it had been folded and unfolded many times, and Marcus could see that it was slightly damp, probably from her tears. "Did someone give this to you?" Marcus asked as he carefully took the note from her trembling fingers. The girl nodded and whispered, "My mama. She said to bring it here and find someone important." Marcus unfolded the paper slowly. The handwriting was messy and desperate, written in pencil that had been pressed hard into the paper. As he read the first few lines, his blood ran cold. This was not what he had expected at all. The words made his hands start to shake and his heart began pounding in his chest. The note was from the girl's mother, and it contained information that could change everything, not just for this little girl, but for the entire royal family and the kingdom itself. Marcus read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. The implications were staggering and terrifying. He looked back at the girl, who was watching him with wide, frightened eyes. She could see that the note had affected him deeply, but she was too young to understand what it meant. All she knew was that her mother had told her to bring it to the palace and find someone who could help. Marcus glanced back toward his post, where Thomas was still covering for him. The young guard was beginning to look concerned about how long Marcus had been away. Palace protocol was strict about abandoning posts, even for a few minutes. But this note changed everything. The information it contained was too important to wait for proper channels or official procedures. The girl reached up and tugged gently on Marcus's uniform sleeve. "Will you help my mama?" she asked in a small voice. Marcus looked down into her innocent, hopeful face and felt his world shifting. In 12 years of service, he had never faced a decision like this. His duty was to the royal family and to maintaining security at the palace. But this child and her mother needed help immediately, and the contents of the note suggested that time was running out. The morning sun was getting higher, and the palace was becoming busier by the hour. Soon the important guests would begin arriving for the gala. Marcus knew that if he was going to act on the information in this note, he had to move quickly. There would be no second chances, and waiting could mean disaster for everyone involved. He folded the note carefully and put it in his breast pocket, right over his heart. Then he took the little girl's hand in his own much larger one. Her fingers were cold and small, but she squeezed his hand trustingly. Whatever happened next, Marcus knew that this moment had changed the course of his life forever. Marcus stood up slowly, still holding the little girl's hand. His mind was racing as he tried to process what he had just read. The note contained detailed information about a plot against the royal family. The girl's mother, Elena, worked as a cleaner in a hotel where several suspicious men had been staying. She had overheard them planning something terrible for tonight's gala. According to the note, Elena had been cleaning their room when she discovered maps of the palace, photos of the royal family, and weapons hidden under the bed. The men had returned unexpectedly and caught her looking at their materials. They threatened her and her daughter, warning that both would be killed if Elena told anyone what she had seen. But Elena couldn't stay silent when innocent lives were at risk. The note explained that Elena had sent her daughter to the palace because she was too frightened to come herself. The men were watching her closely, and she believed they would kill her if she tried to leave the hotel. She begged whoever found the note to protect her daughter and stop the terrible plan that was supposed to happen during the gala. Marcus looked down at the girl, whose name was Luna, according to the note. She was so small and brave, having carried this enormous burden to the palace all by herself. He could see the trust in her eyes as she looked up at him, believing that he would somehow make everything better. "Luna," Marcus said gently, kneeling down again to be at her eye level. "You were very brave to bring this message. Your mama loves you very much." Luna nodded solemnly. "She was crying when she gave it to me. She said the bad men want to hurt people, and only someone at the big castle could stop them." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. The protocol would be to report this through proper channels, which could take hours. He would need to fill out forms, wait for his superior officers to review the case, and hope that someone would eventually take action. But the note suggested that the attack was planned for tonight during the gala, which started in just 8 hours. He glanced back at Thomas, who was now looking very worried about Marcus being away from his post for so long. Other guards were beginning to notice as well. Marcus knew that he had perhaps minutes before someone came looking for him, demanding an explanation for his absence. The smart thing would be to take Luna to the guard station, hand over the note, and return to his duties. Let someone else deal with this crisis. But Marcus had read enough intelligence reports to know how these things worked. By the time the information worked its way up through the proper channels and back down to the action level, it might be too late. Marcus made his decision in that moment. He could not live with himself if he followed protocol and people died because of the delay. The little girl had trusted him with this information, and he was going to act on it immediately. "Luna, I need you to stay right here by the fountain," Marcus said firmly but kindly. "I'm going to get some people to help us, but you must not move from this spot. Can you do that for me?" Luna nodded again, though she looked scared at the thought of being left alone. Marcus could see that she was exhausted from the stress and fear of carrying her mother's message. He wished he could comfort her more, but time was running short. Marcus strode quickly across the courtyard toward the main palace entrance. His heart was pounding, not from exertion, but from the magnitude of what he was about to do. Abandoning his post without permission was a serious offense that could cost him his job and his pension. But the lives of the royal family and all the gala guests were more important than his career. He found Sergeant Williams in the main security office, reviewing the guest list for the evening's event. Williams was a veteran with 30 years of experience, and Marcus respected his judgment. If anyone would take this threat seriously, it would be Williams. "Sergeant, I need to speak with you immediately," Marcus said, slightly out of breath. "It's urgent." Williams looked up from his paperwork with a frown. "Whitfield, shouldn't you be at your post? The first guests arrive in 6 hours." "Sir, I've received credible intelligence about a threat to tonight's gala," Marcus said, pulling out the note. "A child brought this information directly to me. Her mother discovered a plot against the royal family." Williams's expression changed immediately from annoyed to alert. He took the note and read it carefully, his face growing more serious with each line. Marcus watched as the sergeant's training kicked in, evaluating the threat level and considering the response options. "Where did you get this?" Williams asked sharply. "A young girl, maybe 8 years old, brought it to the palace. Her mother is Elena Vasquez, works at the Grand Hotel downtown. According to the note, she's being watched by the suspects and couldn't come herself." Williams stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy courtyard where Luna was still sitting by the fountain. "That's the child you were talking to when you abandoned your post?" Marcus felt his stomach drop. He had been seen leaving his position, which would normally result in immediate disciplinary action. "Yes, sir. I know I broke protocol, but you did exactly the right thing," Williams interrupted, surprising Marcus. "If this intelligence is accurate, we have less than 8 hours to prevent a major attack. I'm calling an emergency meeting with palace security immediately." Williams picked up his phone and began making rapid calls. Within minutes, the security office was filled with senior staff members, all looking tense and focused. Marcus found himself in the unusual position of briefing officers who outranked him significantly, explaining how he had received the intelligence and what actions he had taken. Colonel Morrison, the head of palace security, listened intently to Marcus's report. "Captain Whitfield, you made a judgment call that may have saved lives tonight. However, we need to verify this information quickly. The girl's mother is the key witness, but if she's truly being watched, we need to approach this carefully." The room buzzed with activity as plans were made. Some officers would investigate the hotel and attempt to locate Elena Vasquez. Others would review the guest list and security arrangements for potential vulnerabilities. Additional guards would be called in to increase security around the palace. Throughout all of this planning, Marcus kept thinking about Luna, still sitting alone by the fountain. The little girl had no idea that her brave action had set in motion a major security operation that could prevent a tragedy. Colonel Morrison assigned a team of undercover officers to investigate the Grand Hotel immediately. Meanwhile, Marcus was given a new temporary assignment that surprised him. Instead of returning to his gate duty, he was asked to stay with Luna and try to gather more information from her. The colonel believed that the child might remember details that her mother hadn't included in the note. Marcus walked back across the courtyard to where Luna was still sitting patiently by the fountain. She looked up at him hopefully as he approached, her small face brightening when she saw him returning. He sat down beside her on the stone steps, trying to appear calm despite the urgency he felt inside. "Luna, you've been very helpful already," Marcus said gently, "but I need to ask you some questions about the bad men your mama saw. Do you think you can help me with that?" Luna nodded seriously. "Mama said I should tell the important person at the castle everything I remember." "Good. Can you tell me what your mama said about these men? What did they look like?" Luna scrunched up her face in concentration. "Mama said there were 4 of them. They had dark hair and spoke with funny voices, not like us. One of them had a big scar on his face right here." She traced a line down her left cheek with her finger. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. This detail wasn't in the note, but it could be crucial for identifying the suspects. "What else did your mama tell you about them?" "They were staying in the big room on the 3rd floor. Room 312. Mama cleans that floor every Tuesday and Thursday." Luna paused, thinking hard. "She said they had pictures of the pretty princess and the king and queen all over their table. This information was extremely valuable. The security team would now know exactly where to look for evidence." Marcus gently pressed for more details, being careful not to frighten Luna or make her feel like she was being interrogated. "Did your mama say anything about when these bad men plan to do something? Tonight, when all the fancy people come to the castle for the big party. Mama heard them talking about waiting until everyone was inside the big room with all the lights." Luna's eyes filled with tears again. "They said they would hurt everyone, even the children." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The ballroom where the gala was held could accommodate over 500 guests, including several members of the royal family, government officials, and foreign dignitaries. An attack there would be devastating, not just in terms of casualties but also for the stability of the entire kingdom. His radio crackled with a message from Sergeant Williams. Whitfield, we need you and the girl in conference room A immediately. We've made contact with the hotel management and there are developments. Marcus helped Luna to her feet, noticing how small and tired she looked. The stress of the morning was taking its toll on the young girl. Luna, we're going to go inside the castle now to talk to some more people who want to help your mama. Are you okay with that? Luna nodded, though she moved closer to Marcus as they walked toward the palace entrance. She had clearly decided that he was safe and trustworthy, which made Marcus feel both honored and deeply responsible for her well-being. Conference room A was filled with serious-looking people in uniforms and suits. Luna pressed closer to Marcus's side when she saw all the adults staring at her. Colonel Morrison immediately approached them with a kind expression, crouching down to Luna's level just as Marcus had done earlier. Hello, Luna. I'm Colonel Morrison and I'm in charge of keeping people safe here at the palace. Captain Marcus has told us how brave you've been today. Luna looked up at Marcus for reassurance before responding to the colonel. Are you going to help my mama? We're doing everything we can, Morrison replied honestly. But first, I need to tell you some news about your mama. Marcus felt his stomach tighten with worry. The serious tone in the colonel's voice suggested that the news might not be good. Luna seemed to sense this too, because she grabbed Marcus's hand tightly. We sent some people to check on your mama at the hotel, Morrison continued carefully. The good news is that we found her and she's alive. But the bad men discovered that she had sent you here with the message. They're holding her in the hotel room and won't let her leave. Luna's eyes went wide with fear. Are they going to hurt her? We won't let that happen, Morrison said firmly. But this means we need to be very careful about how we handle this situation. The bad men don't know that we're already aware of their plan and we want to keep it that way. Marcus understood immediately. If the suspects realized that the authorities knew about their plot, they might accelerate their timeline, harm Elena, or simply disappear and attempt their attack elsewhere at another time. The element of surprise was crucial for both stopping the attack and rescuing Luna's mother. A female officer whom Marcus didn't recognize stepped forward. Luna, my name is Detective Sarah Chen. I specialize in helping children in situations like this. Would it be okay if you stayed with me while the grown-ups work on helping your mama? Luna looked uncertain, glancing between Marcus and the detective. Can Captain Marcus stay too? Colonel Morrison and Detective Chen exchanged glances. Marcus realized that they were making a decision about his continued involvement in this case. Normally, a gate guard would be dismissed at this point. His role finished once he had reported the initial intelligence, but Luna's attachment to him was clear, and her cooperation might be essential for gathering more information. Captain Marcus will stay close by, Detective Chen assured Luna. Right now, we need to make sure you're safe and comfortable while we work on this problem. As Detective Chen led Luna toward a smaller, more comfortable room with snacks and games, Marcus caught Colonel Morrison's attention. Sir, what's the situation at the hotel? Morrison's expression was grim. It's complicated. Hotel security confirms that 4 men matching the description have been staying in room 312 for 3 days. They've been asking detailed questions about tonight's gala, claiming to be journalists. Elena Vasquez is definitely being held against her will, but any direct rescue attempt could trigger the very attack we're trying to prevent. Marcus nodded, understanding the delicate balance they had to maintain. What's the plan? We're coordinating with local police to maintain surveillance on the hotel while we increase security here at the palace. The challenge is that we don't know exactly how or when they plan to infiltrate the gala. Elena overheard fragments of conversation but not the complete operational details. The next few hours would be crucial. The gala was scheduled to begin at 7 o'clock and it was already past noon. Time was running out to identify and neutralize the threat, while keeping Elena safe and maintaining the facade that everything was proceeding normally. Detective Chen had set up a comfortable space for Luna in a small room adjacent to the main security center. The room had soft chairs, coloring books, and snacks, but Luna seemed too worried to pay attention to any of these distractions. She kept asking about her mother and whether the bad men were going to hurt her. Marcus found himself spending more time with Luna than he had expected. Colonel Morrison had specifically requested that he remain available, both to keep Luna calm and because his observations might prove valuable. As the afternoon progressed, Luna began sharing more details about what her mother had told her. Mama was really scared when she came home yesterday, Luna said. carefully coloring inside the lines of a princess drawing. She kept looking out the window and checking the door locks. She made me promise not to go outside to play. Marcus sat beside her at the small table. Did she tell you anything else about what she saw? Luna paused in her coloring and looked up at him with serious dark eyes. She said the bad men had things that looked like the tools Papa used to use when he worked in construction, but smaller and scarier. This was new information that hadn't been in the note. Marcus felt his blood chill as he realized Luna might be describing explosives or weapons. Did your mama say where these tools were? In a big black bag under the bed. Mama said they looked like they could break things. Big important things. Luna returned to her coloring, but Marcus could see that her hands were shaking slightly. Marcus immediately radioed this information to Colonel Morrison. Within minutes, the colonel appeared in the room with Detective Chen and another officer Marcus hadn't met before. Luna, this is Agent Thompson, Colonel Morrison said. He's an expert on the kind of tools your mama saw. Could you tell him what you just told Captain Marcus? Luna looked hesitant at first, but she repeated what she had said about the construction-like tools in the black bag. Agent Thompson listened intently, asking a few gentle questions to clarify what Elena might have seen. Based on the description, we're likely looking at portable explosive devices, Thompson told Morrison quietly, though not quietly enough to keep Marcus from overhearing. If they're planning to use those at a crowded event like tonight's gala, the casualties could be enormous. Meanwhile, reports were coming in from the surveillance team at the Grand Hotel. The suspects had not left their room since morning, but hotel staff reported unusual sounds coming from their floor, including what sounded like equipment being assembled. Elena was confirmed to still be in the room with them, though her exact condition was unknown. The royal family had been quietly informed of the threat, though they were being advised to maintain their normal schedule, to avoid alerting the suspects that their plan had been discovered. The decision about whether to cancel or postpone the gala was being debated at the highest levels of government. Luna looked up from her drawing as all the adults around her became increasingly tense and busy. Is my mama in big trouble? She asked Marcus directly. Marcus knelt down beside her chair, trying to find words that would be truthful but not terrifying for a young child. Your mama is very brave, and right now she's helping us make sure those bad men can't hurt anyone. But we're working very hard to bring her home to you safely. Will I see her tonight? Marcus glanced at Colonel Morrison, who gave him a small nod. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen, Luna, but it might take a little longer than tonight. Luna's lower lip began to tremble again, but she was trying hard to be brave like her mother. Detective Chen sat down at the table with them and gently changed the subject to help distract Luna from her fears. Around 3 o'clock, there was a breakthrough in the case. Hotel management had provided security camera footage that showed the suspects arriving 3 days earlier, with several large bags and cases. More importantly, the footage revealed how they had been gathering intelligence about the palace and the gala. Agent Thompson called Marcus into the main security center to review the footage. Captain, you've spent more time with the child than anyone else today. We need your assessment of whether she might have any other information that could be crucial. Marcus watched the grainy security footage showing 4 men entering the hotel lobby. One of them did indeed have a distinctive scar on his left cheek, exactly as Luna had described. The men moved with military precision and seemed to be conducting a professional surveillance operation. She's told us everything she knows, Marcus said thoughtfully, but her mother might have seen more than what she put in the note. If Elena was cleaning their room regularly, she might have observed their patterns, overheard phone calls, or noticed details about their equipment. The problem is that we can't safely extract Elena without potentially triggering their attack, Thompson replied. They're clearly holding her as insurance, and any rescue attempt could cause them to accelerate their timeline. Colonel Morrison joined their conversation with an update from the government officials who were debating the gala's fate. The Prime Minister wants to proceed with the event, but with maximum security measures. The thinking is that if we cancel suddenly, the suspects will know their plan has been compromised, and they might simply attack another target or try again later. Marcus understood the logic, but the thought of hundreds of innocent people gathering in one place while armed terrorists were nearby made his stomach turn. What about evacuating the hotel without making it obvious that we're targeting their room specifically? We've considered that, Morrison replied. But a large-scale evacuation would definitely alert them that something was wrong. Our best option is to position tactical teams around the hotel and wait for them to make their move. The strategy was becoming clear, though it was extremely risky. The authorities would allow the suspects to begin their attack, then intercept them before they could reach the palace. This would require perfect timing and coordination, with no margin for error. As the afternoon wore on, Marcus found himself thinking not just about the larger threat, but about Luna and her mother. This brave little girl had single-handedly prevented what could have been a massive tragedy, simply by following her mother's instructions and trusting a stranger in uniform. The weight of that trust and responsibility continued to drive everything Marcus did. Luna had grown quieter as the day progressed, clearly sensing the tension around her, even though the adults were trying to shield her from the worst details. She stayed close to Marcus whenever he was in the room, and he found himself feeling protective of her in a way that went beyond his professional duties. Detective Chen approached Marcus around 4 o'clock with a question that surprised him. "Captain, have you considered what happens to Luna if this situation doesn't resolve as we hope?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had been so focused on the immediate crisis that he hadn't fully considered the possibility that Elena might not survive the day. Luna would be left orphaned, with no family support system that they knew of. The note mentioned that Luna's father died in a construction accident last year. Chen continued, "Elena appears to be her only family. Child services would normally take custody, but given Luna's role in preventing this attack, there might be other options." Marcus looked through the window into the room where Luna was quietly playing with building blocks, trying to construct something that looked like a castle. The sight made his chest tight with emotion. This little girl deserved so much better than the fear and uncertainty she was experiencing. As evening approached, the tension in the palace security center reached a breaking point. The gala was scheduled to begin in just 2 hours, and guests were already starting to arrive for pre-event photographs and cocktails. Outside, additional security teams had taken positions around the palace grounds, though they remained as invisible as possible to maintain the appearance of normalcy. The surveillance team at the Grand Hotel reported increased activity in room 312. The suspects appeared to be preparing to move, based on sounds of equipment being packed and what looked like weapons being loaded into bags. Most critically, Elena was still alive and appeared to be unharmed, though she was clearly being kept under close guard. Luna had grown very quiet as the afternoon turned to evening. She seemed to sense that something important was about to happen, even though the adults around her continued to speak in code and whispers. Detective Chen had tried to engage her with games and stories, but Luna kept returning to questions about her mother. "Captain Marcus," Luna said softly, tugging on his uniform sleeve as he reviewed tactical plans with the other officers. "Is my mama going to die?" The directness of the question stunned Marcus. He looked down into Luna's worried face and realized that despite everyone's efforts to shield her from the harsh realities of the situation, she understood more than they had given her credit for. Her mother was in danger, and Luna was smart enough to recognize that the outcome was uncertain. Marcus knelt down to her level, as had become his habit throughout the day. "Luna, your mama is in a difficult situation right now, but we have very good people working to keep her safe. Sometimes grown-ups have to face scary things to protect the people they love. Like you did when you left your important job to help me?" The observation caught Marcus off guard. Luna had noticed that he had abandoned his post to come to her aid, and she understood that he had taken a risk to help her. Her perception and maturity were remarkable for such a young child. "Yes, like that," Marcus said gently. "Sometimes we have to make hard choices to do what's right." Colonel Morrison's voice cut through the room with urgent authority. "All units, we have movement at the hotel. Suspects are leaving room 312 with large bags and cases. Elena Vasquez is with them, appears to be under duress but mobile." Marcus felt his heart rate spike. This was it. The terrorists were making their move toward the palace, and Elena was being taken along, probably as a human shield or hostage. The tactical teams would have to intercept them without harming Elena, while ensuring that none of the suspects reached the gala. "Luna, I need you to stay right here with Detective Chen," Marcus said, standing up and checking his equipment. "I have to go help with your mama now." Luna's eyes went wide with fear, but she nodded bravely. "Will you bring her back to me?" Marcus felt the weight of that promise as he looked down at Luna's trusting face. He wanted desperately to guarantee that everything would be fine, but the reality was that the next few hours were going to be extremely dangerous for everyone involved. "I'm going to try my hardest," he said honestly. "You've been the bravest little girl I've ever met today, and I need you to be brave just a little bit longer." Colonel Morrison was assembling a response team in the corridor outside the security center. Marcus was surprised when he was included in the briefing, given that his normal duties were ceremonial rather than tactical. But Morrison explained that Marcus's connection to Luna and his understanding of the intelligence she had provided made him valuable to the operation. "The suspects are traveling in a van toward the palace," Morrison explained to the assembled officers. "They have Elena Vasquez with them, which complicates any direct intervention. Our objective is to stop them before they reach the perimeter, while ensuring the hostages' safety." The tactical plan was complex, involving multiple teams positioned at various points between the hotel and the palace. The idea was to create a controlled confrontation at a location where civilian casualties could be minimized and Elena could be safely extracted. Marcus found himself assigned to a backup team that would secure the palace grounds if the primary interception failed. As he prepared his equipment, he thought about Luna waiting anxiously in the security center, probably watching the clock and wondering why time was moving so slowly. The radio chatter began almost immediately as the surveillance teams tracked the suspect's vehicle through the city streets. They were indeed heading directly toward the palace, confirming that their target was the gala, as Elena had reported. The timing suggested they planned to arrive just as the event was reaching its peak attendance. "Team Alpha, suspect's vehicle is approaching checkpoint 1, came the first report. 4 adult males visible, plus 1 female who appears to be the hostage. Marcus listened intently as the tactical teams coordinated their response. This was unlike anything he had experienced in his 12 years of palace security duty. His usual responsibilities involved checking invitations and watching for pickpockets, not intercepting armed terrorists. The primary interception point was a narrow street about 6 blocks from the palace, where concrete barriers could be deployed to stop the suspect's vehicle without creating a high-speed chase through populated areas. Tactical officers were positioned in buildings on both sides of the street, with snipers providing overwatch from rooftops. "Team Alpha, prepare for contact. Vehicle is slowing as it approaches the barriers." Marcus felt his palms sweating as he listened to the radio reports. Everything depended on the next few minutes. If the interception failed, the suspects would reach the palace grounds where hundreds of innocent people were gathered for the gala. "Contact. Contact. Suspects are exiting the vehicle with weapons. Hostage is visible but appears to be used as a human shield." The sound of gunfire crackled through the radio, followed by shouted commands and tactical updates. Marcus gripped his weapon tighter, knowing that his team might be called into action at any moment. The backup plan involved defending the palace itself if the terrorists somehow broke through the primary perimeter. Minutes felt like hours as the tactical teams engaged the suspects. The radio reports were tense and fragmented, making it difficult to understand exactly what was happening at the interception point. All Marcus could do was wait and prepare for whatever came next. Detective Chen's voice came through on his personal radio, adding another layer of worry to an already stressful situation. "Captain Whitfield, Luna is asking for you. She can hear the radio chatter and knows something is happening." Marcus was torn between his tactical responsibilities and his desire to comfort Luna during what had to be the most terrifying moments of her young life. Her mother was in immediate danger, and she was smart enough to understand that the outcome was far from certain. "Tell her I'm working to help her mama," Marcus radioed back, "and that she's the bravest person I know." The gunfire stopped suddenly, replaced by urgent voices coordinating medical response and scene security. Marcus held his breath, waiting for word about whether the operation had been successful and whether Elena was safe. The radio silence that followed the gunfire seemed to stretch forever. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat as he waited for word from the tactical teams at the interception point. Around him, other officers stood motionless, all listening intently to their radios for any update on the operation's outcome. Finally, Colonel Morrison's voice broke through the tension. "All teams, suspects are down. Repeat, all 4 suspects are neutralized. Hostage is alive and appears uninjured. Medical teams are responding to the scene." Marcus felt his knees nearly buckle with relief. Elena was alive. Luna would get her mother back. The attack on the gala had been prevented. But even as celebration began around him, Marcus knew his responsibility was far from over. Luna was waiting for news about her mother, and she deserved to hear it from someone she trusted. Marcus quickly made his way back to the security center, where Detective Chen was trying to keep Luna distracted with a puzzle. The little girl looked up immediately when Marcus entered the room, searching his face for any sign of what had happened. "Is she okay?" Luna asked in a small voice, abandoning the puzzle completely. Marcus knelt down beside her chair, his face breaking into the first genuine smile he had worn all day. "Yes, Luna, your mama is safe. The bad men can't hurt anyone now and your mama is coming home to you." Luna's eyes filled with tears, but for the first time that day, they were tears of relief and joy rather than fear. She threw her small arms around Marcus's neck, hugging him tightly as she sobbed against his shoulder. Marcus held her gently, feeling his own emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "When can I see her?" Luna asked, pulling back to look at Marcus's face. "Very soon," Marcus promised. "She's with some doctors right now who want to make sure she's completely okay, but then she'll come straight here to you." Detective Chen approached them with a warm smile. "Luna, your mama is on her way to the hospital just to be checked by doctors, but she asked me to tell you something special. She said to tell you that you're the bravest little girl in the whole kingdom, and she's so proud of you for bringing her message to the right people." Luna wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself like the mature little girl she had proven to be all day. "Will Captain Marcus be there when she comes?" Marcus looked at Detective Chen, unsure of what his role would be now that the immediate crisis was over. The protocol would normally be for him to return to his regular duties, but the connection he had formed with Luna made that feel wrong somehow. Colonel Morrison entered the room at that moment, still wearing his tactical gear but looking considerably more relaxed than he had all day. "Captain Whitfield, I need to speak with you privately for a moment." Marcus reluctantly left Luna with Detective Chen and followed the colonel into the corridor. He expected to be briefed on the final details of the operation, or perhaps commended for his part in preventing the attack. Instead, Morrison surprised him with an unexpected question. "Captain, what are your thoughts about the child's long-term situation?" Marcus was confused. "Sir, her mother is safe now. They'll be reunited tonight. Yes, but Elena Vasquez risked her life to prevent this attack. She'll need protection for a while, at least until we're certain there are no other threats connected to this group. The intelligence services will want to debrief her extensively, and there may be legal proceedings that require her testimony." Marcus began to understand where this conversation was heading. Luna and Elena would need somewhere safe to stay, somewhere they could be protected, while the authorities dealt with the aftermath of the terrorist plot. The royal family has been informed of the role both Elena and Luna played in preventing this tragedy, Morrison continued. They're prepared to offer the family protection and support, including housing on the palace grounds until the situation is completely resolved. The implications were staggering. Luna and her mother would essentially become guests of the royal family, protected and cared for by the same security forces that guarded the kingdom's most important people. It was an extraordinary gesture that reflected the magnitude of what Elena's courage and Luna's bravery had accomplished. "There's more," Morrison said. "The royal family has also discussed establishing a scholarship fund in Luna's name to ensure she has access to the best possible education. They want to make sure that her future is as bright as her actions today have been heroic." Marcus felt overwhelmed by the generosity being shown to this small family who had risked everything to protect others. "What would my role be in all of this?" Morrison smiled for the first time that day. "That's partly up to you, Captain. Luna has clearly formed a strong attachment to you, and her comfort and security are now matters of national importance. If you're willing, the royal family would like you to serve as Luna's personal protection officer during their stay at the palace." The offer was beyond anything Marcus could have imagined when he woke up that morning for what he thought would be a routine day of gate duty. To serve as personal protection for the little girl who had trusted him with her mother's desperate message would be both an honor and a tremendous responsibility. Before Marcus could respond, they heard Elena's voice from the main security center. She had arrived from the hospital and was asking for her daughter. Marcus and Morrison quickly returned to find Luna racing across the room into her mother's arms. Elena looked tired and shaken, but she was smiling through her tears as she held Luna tightly. "My brave little girl," she whispered in Spanish, rocking Luna back and forth. "I was so scared, but I knew you would find the right person to help us." Luna pulled back to look at her mother's face, checking to make sure she was really okay. "Mama, this is Captain Marcus. He's the important person I found, and he kept me safe all day while you were with the bad men." Elena looked up at Marcus with gratitude that needed no translation. She stood up, still holding Luna's hand, and approached him with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said in accented but clear English. "You saved my daughter, and you saved many people today." Marcus felt humbled by her thanks. "Ma'am, your daughter is the real hero here. Her courage in bringing your message to us prevented a terrible tragedy." Colonel Morrison stepped forward to introduce himself to Elena and begin explaining the protection and support being offered by the royal family. As he spoke, Marcus watched Luna's face light up with wonder as she learned that they would be staying in the actual palace, like characters in the fairy tales her mother probably read to her. The day that had begun with Marcus standing at his post, focused only on his routine duties, was ending with him being offered a completely new role protecting the bravest little girl he had ever met. As he looked at Luna holding her mother's hand and smiling for the first time all day, Marcus knew exactly what his answer would be. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same courtyard where he had first noticed Luna sitting alone and crying by the fountain. But everything had changed since that pivotal morning. The fountain area had been transformed into a small playground where Luna could play safely within the palace grounds, complete with swings and a sandbox that she had specifically requested. Luna was no longer the frightened, tearful child who had approached him with her mother's desperate note. She had grown more confident and happy during her time living at the palace, though she still preferred to stay close to Marcus whenever possible. The trauma of that day had faded, replaced by the security of knowing she and her mother were safe and valued. Elena had indeed provided crucial intelligence to the authorities during the investigation that followed. The terrorist cell had been part of a larger international network, and Elena's eyewitness testimony helped identify and capture several other dangerous individuals. Her courage had prevented not just one attack but potentially many others. The royal family had been true to their word about supporting Luna's education. She was now attending the palace's private school alongside the children of other palace staff, receiving an education that would have been impossible for Elena to afford on a hotel cleaner's salary. Luna excelled in her studies, showing particular aptitude for languages and mathematics. Marcus had accepted the position as Luna's personal protection officer, though in practice his role had evolved into something more like a beloved uncle than a formal bodyguard. Luna trusted him completely, and Elena had come to rely on his steady presence in their lives. The three of them had formed an unlikely but strong family unit within the palace community. The media attention following the prevention of the terrorist attack had been intense, but carefully managed. Luna's identity was protected, and she was referred to only as the brave young girl in all official statements. The royal family wanted to ensure that she could grow up as normally as possible. Despite her extraordinary circumstances, Elena had been offered a permanent position at the palace, overseeing the housekeeping staff in the residential quarters. It was a significant promotion from her previous job, with better pay and the security of knowing that she and Luna would always have a home. More importantly, it allowed her to contribute meaningfully to the palace community while staying close to her daughter. Marcus often reflected on how a single moment of decision had changed the course of his entire life. If he had followed protocol strictly and remained at his post that morning, Luna might have sat by the fountain until evening, unnoticed and unable to deliver her mother's crucial message. The attack would have proceeded as planned, with devastating consequences. The gala had eventually taken place 3 weeks later, with enhanced security measures and a special tribute to Elena and Luna's heroism. The royal family had privately met with both mother and daughter, thanking them personally for their courage and officially welcoming them into the palace family. Luna had been initially overwhelmed by meeting actual royalty, but her natural confidence had quickly emerged. She had asked the young princess if she could show her the playground that Marcus had helped design, and the two girls had become fast friends. It was not uncommon now to see Luna playing with the royal children, completely at ease in their company. The relationship between Marcus and his own family had also been strengthened by these events. His wife and daughter Sarah had been initially concerned about his new responsibilities, but they quickly grew to love Luna and Elena as well. Sarah, who was only a year older than Luna, had become like a big sister to her, often spending weekends at the palace. Marcus watched now as Luna played on the swings, laughing as she tried to swing higher than she had the day before. Elena sat on a nearby bench reading a book while keeping one eye on her daughter. The scene was peaceful and normal, exactly what Marcus had hoped for when he first promised Luna that everything would be okay. "Captain Marcus," Luna called out, waving at him from the swing set. "Come push me. I want to swing as high as the castle towers." Marcus smiled and walked over to the swings, thinking about how much had changed since he was simply a gate guard following orders. Now he was responsible for protecting the most important thing in the world, a little girl's happiness and security. As he pushed Luna's swing and listened to her delighted laughter, Marcus felt a deep satisfaction that went beyond professional accomplishment. He had made the right choice that morning 6 months ago when he abandoned his post to help a crying child. Sometimes the most important decisions we make are the ones that feel instinctive rather than calculated. The palace bells chimed 4 o'clock, signaling the end of the school day for the other children. Soon Luna's royal friends would join her in the playground, and the courtyard would fill with the sounds of children playing. Elena would close her book and join Marcus in supervising their games, contributing to the informal family atmosphere they had all worked to create. That evening, as had become their routine, Marcus would read Luna a bedtime story, while Elena prepared their small apartment within the palace quarters. Luna always chose adventure stories about brave heroes and princesses, though Marcus suspected she didn't need fictional inspiration for courage. She had proven her own bravery when it mattered most. The note that had started everything was now framed and displayed in Colonel Morrison's office, a reminder to all palace security staff that sometimes the most important intelligence comes from unexpected sources. More importantly, it served as a testament to the power of trusting your instincts and doing what's right, even when it means breaking the rules. As Marcus watched Luna play with her friends in the golden afternoon sunlight, he knew that this was exactly where he was meant to be. The frightened little girl who had trusted him with her mother's desperate message had given him a purpose greater than any he had ever imagined. And every day, Luna's continued happiness and security reminded him that sometimes a single moment of compassion can change everything.